This is Colin McCracken for zombiehamster.com. I'm here with James Moran, and I'm here with Elliot Goldner. We have just come out of a wonderful double bill of Crazy for You and The Borderlands. I'd like to start with the Borderlands. I think it's best that we begin in darkness and work towards the light, if that makes any sense. So, yes, okay, how do I put this? I go through about, as a horror journalist, maybe 6 to 10 genre movies a week. Okay, that's close to 500 a year, thereabouts. And I would like a Xanax and a hug now, please. Because that was spectacular. It's very, very difficult to tell a good haunting story or a good supernatural story well. I think that you both did this very, very effectively. Now, just to clarify, this was your feature directorial debut?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it's the first one that you've written yourself.
That's right, yeah.
But James, you had a hand in the script as well. So would you be able to clarify just to what lengths you were involved in the writing, James?
I came on board after it was all written and it was set up, and they were already scouting locations. So I was brought on to do a polish. They called it a week polish, a week's polish.
A week.
I gave it a week polish. Funded it. So they said, yeah, about a week's work. But they always say that.
Yes.
They want you to do as much as possible before you realise. But it wasn't a huge amount of work. So it was kind of sort of restructuring a few things, tightening some stuff up. Ruthlessly cutting things out because it's not my baby, so I don't care.
And did you find that objective approach helped you a little bit?
Oh, totally. You know, it was really. Yeah, I just don't subscribe to the auteur theory. I think if you look at kind of British television compared to American TV, I mean, I don't know. That's very broad canvas because obviously Fawlty Towers is written by one person, but it's brilliant. But American stuff is they have lots of writers working in a writer's room. I don't think anyone's sort of I don't think you'd be too precious about this kind of stuff. And there's no point saying at this point when I'd sort of done a few drafts of the script and people were happy with it, but then it was suggested, someone says, well, James Moran's available to do a polish on it. Why would I say no? Because it's it's just more stuff to add to the pot, and James threw some in. I think there was, it was some nice dialogue polishes James did, but there was one really, really I just thought, oh God, I'm so glad you did that. There was one scene which sort of just happened a few scenes later, and he's just put it a bit earlier, and it's kind of like I couldn't see the wood for the trees, and so it's just nice to have someone from an outside perspective. I mean, the thing is, you get people who, they pay people to read their script, and then they get back a series of notes, basically, which is needs a bit more of this, needs a bit more of that. So if you're going to go to the effort of that, I mean, Christ, to have someone of James's caliber actually just write it for you. Then. No, it's I mean, it was great.
That's wonderful. And as a very seasoned scriptwriter, what was it that stood out from the script for you the first time that you went through it? Did you see any facets of it that you thought, oh my God, there was something rather wonderful here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all, every time I'm asked to do a rewrite or a polish, I'm always a bit dubious because you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And the thing that stood out right from the very first page, it felt like a real thing that had happened. It just felt really grounded and real. So by the time you get to the end, where I won't spoil it for people watching who haven't seen it gets a little bit crazy. By the time you get there, you've kind of earned it by keeping it real and grounded all the way through. And it just had that kind of really kind of weird creepiness to it that really it just kind of got under my skin. So it's not like I came in and it became a different film altogether. It's just like it was like I got to see the film and then just kind of tweak things, moved a few things around, chopped some stuff out, polished some of the dialogue stuff. It was just things like where a scene would happen and I thought it should happen earlier or it should happen later. Or if you swap these few ones around, then there'll be more of a build-up to this thing, and then that's more of a reveal, and just kind of basic things that I would do if I was doing it myself.
Yeah. Kind of like a mentor thing, but without you having to actually sit down. Us writers. Well, I don't know. Do you ever write have you written with someone before, like in the room together with them? Because I find that sort of
once.
quite excruciating.
It was awful.
Yeah, so it's sort of easy just to sort of say it in script, isn't it, rather than like...
I've written where I've done a draft and the other person's done a draft, and we kind of knocked it back and forth. We've sat and talked about it. There was only once, he won't mind me saying this, it was with Chris Smith, and we came up with, there was a project we wanted to work on, and we thought it'd be great, we'll sit in the room and we'll write it together, in the room together. And it didn't really occur to us that neither of us work like that at all. And we did it. We did it for a good few days, and I think we just went a bit mad because neither of us liked to work like that. And it's like, well, someone's got to be typing, and we just didn't know what we were doing. Because one person said, well, eventually it just kind of broke down. We were like, it's awful. We can't work like this. So we just kind of split up, and I did a draft, and then he was doing a draft, or we kind of passed scenes back and forth. I don't think you can do it with two people in a room. It's just madness. It's like you've got one keyboard and two people.
I think maybe like the kind of people who can do it are the performer, like, you know, imagine League of Gentlemen, that's their forte, or Monty Python or people like that. That's just think that, you know, and those are the kind of people I'm really jealous of, like the writer performance, you know, it's kind of, you know, writer director, that's one thing, you know, we can kind of, you know, take it to that level, but where you can actually like write the words down and then actually jump onto the other side. I think that's, you know, it's probably the same as you and me. It's just like quite excruciating, sort of writing some lines, and then when you hear yourself delivering them, it's just like, oh, fucking hell, well, that's why we have actors, isn't it? But
it's quite a solitary thing where you're sitting in a room by yourself. You have a thought and an idea, and you write it, and then someone reads it and tells you what they think. As opposed to if you're both in a room and you have the thought and the idea, and you're trying to kind of tell them what it is before you figured it out properly, before you've written it. So I just can't do that, and we went a bit mad in there, and we just ended up going to the pub.
That's brilliant. And can you elaborate a little bit on the theological and the psychological elements of the film, because it is really, you know, not just a film about a mysterious sequence of events, but it's a film about belief, it's a film about faith, and it's a film about all these things that lie in the surface of everyday lives.
I think the interesting thing is that what's interesting about the church as an institution, certainly the Catholic Church, is that these are the sort of pillars of society, these people, you know, they're the most sort of respected people in society, yet they are the ones that actually have the craziest sort of beliefs as their firmament, whereas sort of a, you know, atheist person may just sort of think, I don't know, these guys are the guys that they believe in magic and stuff like that. That's what's sort of so strange about them, because then they have to kind of balance that with this very upright position that they take in the world. So that's what the interesting thing about this investigating the miracles thing is. I mean, this really does go on. You know, there'll be somewhere in Ireland a face of Jesus appears in somewhere, or, you know, like a statue crying blood somewhere in India or something like that, and this team of people from the church does actually have to go out and investigate these miracles, or so-called miracles. And generally, it's about debunking them, because they don't want this kind of mass hysteria thing. They want to sort of, you know, they want to control they don't want it to appear too crazy. A lot of these miracles come down to sort of someone saying, I was cured, my eyesight came back, and so they have actually like real medical professionals. These guys are kind of priests, but they're doctors as well, and they really investigate all this kind of stuff very, very scientifically, because you have to, you know, what's the definition of a miracle? Definitely it's something that you can't prove rationally, you can't explain rationally, so they actually have to try and attack it as rationally as possible until they can say, right, we have no, you know, there's no, you know, so that's why it's quite interesting, because these people, they're just used to, I think they go around the world seeing like fake after fake after fake. So if you're actually confronted with, you know, what a surprise to actually be confronted with something that's actually real. You know, it's I think that's when it sort of really pushes these characters to their, you know, to actually where you see what these characters are made of. And I think maybe the most interesting thing is that the character who's the least religious is the most open to believing in this kind of stuff, and the most religious character is the most closed down and actually doesn't really believe in the magic of Christianity, just believes in the sort of be good to your brother kind of side of things. So
that's brilliant. And one of the things I loved about the film was the fact that it all seems to be filmed on location. You know, there's no sound stages or anything like that, and we're now going through tunnels. I always remember a director telling me you can always spot the fake tunnel in a film because there's little dots of light coming through the top. These guys were in really enclosed spaces. in the third act of the film. And I was just wondering...
I mean, yeah, they weren't actors. I just found the tapes in a bush. I mean, that's the beauty of this found footage stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you just have to... Well, no, it's finding it's the hard stuff, but, you know, and the editing. But, no, sorry, what were we going to say?
I was just going to say... the guys must have been reacting in a very naturalistic way, because if you put someone in an abandoned church at night, they're going to start, having similar sensations anyway. If you throw them in an abandoned church at night, start banging and rattling things, that's going to be accentuated tenfold. So I was just wondering, how much elicitation did you have to do in terms of reaction? And how much did you just leave them to it?
I kind of, yeah. I mean, actually, if you listen to the rush, I mean, you can totally destroy the magic and listen to the camera rushes, because they'll just be me dryly going, baby. Scraping noise, and then people go. So I mean, they are just good actors, basically, And I think that that was the thing about it. Was I really needed to strike a balance between the extreme edge of found footage film, which is what's interesting about that kind of. I think what was exciting about that cinema when it first came out, like Blair Witch, it had a real frisson of. This feels so real, and part of that was that there wasn't much good dialogue, because people don't really say good dialogue in real life. I mean, listen to me prattling on, but and on the other side, but that also gets very, very boring after a while. Blair Witch was exciting, but once you've seen 3,000 Blair Witch copies, as you probably will have, it's on the other side, if the dialogue, if it feels too much like they're reading from a script. It's not going to feel realistic enough. So it was sort of trying to find that delicate balance in between, and I think that I think that definitely bringing Rob Hill into it was when that really kind of came to life. I wanted to cast someone who was going to have that improvisational capacity. He's brilliant. I mean, he's not known as being an actor. He's kind of, I think, probably mostly known to most horror fans as like the editor of Kill List and countless other Ben Wheatley films. But his performance in Ben Wheatley's first feature film, Down Terrace, he's sort of the central character, and very, very, there's a lot of improvisation in that. So I knew he'd be good. It's like scary, and then suddenly he's really funny, and it just it was a really, really interesting casting suggestion, and I thought, well, okay, well that's nailed. We've kind of got that. Yeah, we need that kind of spontaneity, that kind of acting spontaneity. Then it was very difficult to find someone to sort of put up against him. We looked at other different people for the part of Deacon, some really kind of actor type actors, and these really, and there's this guy with an amazing from Ireland, and he had this amazing rich voice, but we sort of put him up against Rob, and he was just totally thrown, because he was doing the script and Rob was just chucking in lines, and it was so naturalistic. You just couldn't tell when Rob's when he just walked in and put his coffee down, and then he actually just went straight into the script and started acting. So when we found Gordon Kennedy, he was just an amazing foil. He was kind of he could suck in the energy of Rob, and and not get confused by him, but he didn't have to he didn't turn it back into a kind of really spiky tete-a-tete kind of thing. It was they really worked really, really well together. So I think that it's a horror film, but in my head it's kind of just a kind of a two-hander love story between these two guys, and or it's like a kind of cop film, because you've got the Mark, and he's like the lieutenant who's telling and he's like, it's like Deacon, and you've got his rookie, and they go on adventures. So.
And it's fantastic, because they do have this initial odd couple relationship, which builds up to something of great pathos towards the end. Now, I don't want to go into details of the story or the structure of the plot too much.
But it's kind of important,
too much.
But you want to, you need to be invested in them. You need to want to be with them, and then when they start to make mistakes or whatever, then you want to start going, oh no, please don't do that. So you have to kind of be emotionally involved in the characters.
And I really think that came off very, very well.
But I hope that's me waffling on like that. That what I'm most pleased about is that, and the thing that I was most scared about when we were making it was that. I kind of thought, we had our, if you hammered out your narrative arc, and that's hard enough, and getting everything, and getting your characters, and the characters will make sense and everything. And I just thought at the end, oh God, I hope it's scary. We've spent so much time making it feel like a satisfying film with a satisfying story. But I hope we haven't overlooked the scariness. And so, I mean, from what I've heard from people saying that they found it scary, so that's very just
it definitely is. It definitely is, and
it's amazing. We did scary things.
Well, to bring us full circle, it's not easy to make a supernatural film. It's not even easy to make a scary film. It brought to mind certain features for me, not putting them in direct comparison, but it brought to mind films like Session 9.
I don't know that one, so I can definitely say it's...
now, it could have been the strong Scottish lead. That was a Peter Molyneux film.
The definite influence on my Polish.
What happens in that one then?
I don't give it away.
What's it called? Session 9?
Session 9, really good, and very underrated as well. Not a lot of people talk about that one. And another film called Lake Mungo, an Australian film.
Oh yeah, what's that one? Yeah.
And just in terms of the sort of building fear of dread that occurs in them both, I think they're wonderfully structured, and I saw a very, very similar thing taking place in the Borderlands. I really can't wait to see what the broader reaction is once it gets a nationwide release and everything else.
So the thing that always appeals to me about Session 9 is that when it ends and you find out.
Blah, 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 blah.
I'm not saying when it is revealed, you can then look back at everything that happened, and it's not just random scares. It's like, okay, that all makes sense given what is going on. Yeah. So that was one of the things I tried to bring to this. Like, right, what is the ending, and so how would that manifest itself in all these other ways? So just kind of bring the sounds in and the mimicry and the foundation shaking and just everything. It's just try to kind of all tie it into this thing, whatever that reveal may be, which I can't give away.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. So we've just another minute or two before we wrap up. So I'd just like to go over to James, because we've gone through the harrowing nature of Borderlands now. This was preceded by the rather lovely Crazy for You, which, how would you describe it? A romantic serial killer comedy?
It's a romantic comedy about a serial killer. I call it a romantic comedy horror, because you've got to have a thing. You've got to be a thing.
Well, that's it. I suppose they've got to put it somewhere on the shelf.
Well, my initial thing was I didn't think I could do a romantic comedy because they're really difficult to do properly because they all end exactly the same way. So how the hell do you get any tension across? Because you know they're going to end up together.
They'll propose on the yacht and everyone will be watching.
Which is why there's so many terrible romantic comedies. For the same reason there's so many terrible horror movies, because people think, it's just horror, you just get a few people and kill them, it's easy. And it's not, it's really difficult. So I thought, what if I make the lead a serial killer, then there is genuine suspense as to whether they would end up together or whether he would kill her and everybody else. So that's where it came from. So my initial thought was to make it 50% serial killer movie and 50% fluffy rom-com. And when it's a fluffy rom-com, I want it to be actual fluffy, proper rom-com, using all the tropes, the run into the airport thing, the kind of the date that could go wrong, and all that kind of thing. And then when it's a serial killer movie, it's proper nasty. He's killing people with blood everywhere. But when I was on set filming it, they were so good together in the rom-com sequences that it ended up being a lot nicer than I intended. So I think it's sort of 85% fluffy rom-com and 15% serial killer movie.
That's brilliant. And the two complemented each other very, very well. There was a bit of a crossover with SFX crews and stuff like that as well, wasn't there?
Yes, and the eagle-eyed people there might recognise the name of the producer as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing producer Dan Andorf. We had amazing VFX guy Colin Smith, who did both of them. We shared the editor. We shared a few other crew people.
Yeah, sorry, you were looking. Yeah, you were hoping that I was going to jump in and
me. That's what they shared me.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, listen, guys, thank you very much. I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about it in the future. Crazy for You, will this be available on VOD or anything soon? Or?
This is the second festival we've played at, so we're going to do as many festivals as possible for about a year, and then once it's done, once it's dead in the festival world, then I have a trial in it on a website that you can sell films on. So I'm thinking of putting it.
Excellent. I think it's great to only release films at festivals anyway, because it makes people go to the cinema.
Exactly.
So that's never a bad thing. And will Borderlands, will that be coming out through Metrodome?
Yes, it is. In the UK, Metrodome.
Okay, brilliant.
I believe, Q1, as they say in the industry. So Q1, so at some point next year, beginning next year.
Fantastic. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
This glorious miracle in your house of worship. Yeah, ask this fella here. Yeah. He looks like an agreeable local bumpkin type.
Hi, can you tell us where the church is, Randy?
Yeah, like, you know, it's a big pointy building with a spire on top.
Please be quiet.
Now we're going to examine the altar. And here's the crucifix. Must cross-check crucifix against video footage.
Deacon, what we saw up there was not normal. Was not normal.
As I was walking down by the Royal Arsenal,